staff of the city. My name is Fennicle. I live at 420 Williams Avenue, which is next to Henry. If you're familiar, I live on the riverside, and also my wife's old family owns the Prudhomme home across at the corner of Williams and Henry. Been there forever. I want to speak in opposition to the issue that's on the agenda. It's going to be posted, I understand, for this next meeting and voted on at a later time.
To be introduced tonight, voted on in 2 weeks, is that right, Stacy?
Yes.
Yes.
July 22nd.
I would like to, enter my objection to that request officially. I know it's been through the planning and zoning already, and their wisdom, and so I'd like to come on record, and I will just attend the next meeting and then the subsequent meeting there. So I want it on record that I'm opposed to that. I moved here to retire, never thinking that I might have a commercial creek down Williams Avenue, which I consider to be the front door to the city, and I pick up trash once a week, by the way. So, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Next is Miss Betty Maroney.
I too am here to speak on the introduction of changing the zoning to 219 Williams Avenue. I live on Caffey Drive, and I back up to commercial property, and I deal with the noise and the different things that happen as time has gone on. But I feel by rezoning this particular property, then you're encroaching more into our neighborhoods. I know a lot of people complain, well, the car wash is already there. Well, the car wash is on Kaiser Avenue. Kaiser Avenue was opened up and designed as a commercial thoroughfare. And there's proper buffering. I mean, I looked at this house that's actually for sale as a residential property. And the reason it hasn't sold has very little to do with the car wash, but more to do with the actual house, the structure, the things. And I don't see how any dentist office would need 5,000 square feet and keep it, a one-man operation as such, which is some of the argument that's been going back and forth on Facebook. It's very difficult to get into this driveway. There is parking in the back, but there is area in the back, but you have to go in and turn around to come out, because even when I saw it with the realtor, that's what we had to do, because you couldn't back in and out. So I would like to see that house remain residential. I know the house next to it, further towards Kaiser, I think this has already been done. I'm not really sure, but it's been rezoned for a lawyer to see. He lives in the house and he's gonna see clients. Is that right? Do y'all remember that one? Is that what's getting done there?
It was, we do the.
It was given special
temporary
exceptions
zoning.
on.
Right, okay, special exception. So it was but it's a lawyer seeing clients. It's not like a dentist office with people coming and going all day and other employees working there and stuff. So if necessary, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I just wasn't sure about what's going on. Thank you.
Well, that was quick. We're not close.
You thought I was gonna be long-winded.
Ma'am?
You thought I was gonna be long-winded? I can't believe it.
Nah.
I'll save it. I'll save it for 2 weeks.
I thought Bill was, really.
Save your ammo, save your ammo.
All right, we've got a few minutes, if anybody, wants to visit or bring up anything else, so go back to business, I guess.
I'm Betty.
When it starts moving, it's right there, it's just a dull, but quit moving, I took a really close, like really down, it's about on the scale of 1 to 10.
The 6 foot dog, and it, look, it was in this, and you wouldn't have anything around I could make it work with it being up in the air.
The next time, maybe I'll
What I'm fast at business about that. Did he?
This time, we're just gonna do
Might have one of the heavy power strip. Then it's got a 6 foot card on it, got the power strip sitting right there. And the heavier card you would see back.
Let's start all over. But everything, no. But I'm not. Might never be taken off.
Isn't it? Well, wait, I don't, let's see how far it goes. That's how far it goes. Is that how long? Big box.
That's why you make it cool. That was easy.
All you gotta do is just leave the bar.
He said my name is good. And you can sign on this side.
You see, I'm less apt to step on this.
Move to the right side. That's what you would have 3 or 4 minutes. Somebody wants to beat somebody is good. So that's why they don't see this side. This side, that's why the leg happens. The sign somebody's listening, you just need to put it I'm taking a shower on Sunday morning. There's no justice. Come on, God, I'm doing the right thing. Probably need to be studied. We're going to go to church. I got to be hurt. And I make that decision like that. That she drove me to diagnosed it. What they thought it was.
Are we in it? We got time? We got one more speaker. We don't have no more elder cases coming out of the civil service. You like to wore me out.
Looked at me briefly and said, "You're gonna find out you got a kidney stone. Give him a shot of such and such."
I'm supposed to tell you, yeah, you want to speak about, I was 19. Well, yes. I'm going to speak on behalf of Judy and Frank Douglas at 225. Williams.
Unfortunately, I had a major automobile accident and brought about 8 people in with injuries, significant kidney stone. I don't know how long it was, it seemed like days before the doctor passed back by. But now, the sheets on my bed, soaking wet, because I'm tired, no sweat, usually whatever shot they gave me, it didn't touch it. He took one look at me and ordered a shot of morphine. And my first and probably only time I've had morphine, and as soon as they pushed that through the IV, I went home. He told me, now this is a male doctor, so I don't know where this is affected. He said, now you know what it'll be like to get back here. I sing it, I don't know what the big
Oh, no, not the pre-meeting. Do I need to talk? Mine is gonna be on the agenda.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Okay, it's up to you, you can go ahead and present it now, so you don't have to do it, it's up, we just gave them an opportunity, they went ahead and spoke already. It's
Oh,
up to
I
you.
didn't know that. Okay, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm Mary White from Bolton Realty, 304 University Parkway. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Judy and Frank Douglas, who I represent in the sale of their house at
Yes.
225 Williams Avenue. We are here to ask you to respectfully to uphold the vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission that was held last week to deny the rezoning of 219 Williams Avenue. Their house is on the National Register of Historic Places and it's been there since 1990. It's only one of 2 residences in the state of Louisiana that have such a designation, and I feel that it would blight it if we allowed commercial to be right next door. You start chipping away at these commercial locations in the middle of business, putting businesses in the middle of residential areas, it tends to start an avalanche of it, and every time something doesn't sell, they'll come to you and ask you to zone it commercial. So we're hoping that you will not change their suggestion from the planning and zoning that was done last week. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those, but Judy and Frank are in Houston and are unable to be here today, so that's why I'm here.
Is that where they're relocating to?
That is where they're relocating to.
Well, tell them we miss them and tell them hello for them.
Yes, they've been residences of Natchitoches for 9 years, and Frank spoke last week at the hearing for the planning and zoning, and he told him then that this was the third time there'd been a rezoning request going from residential to commercial in that area. And he said, you know, we've got to stop doing that when there's plenty of other commercial areas for somebody to put a dental office.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think we're close enough by the time that we have all the preliminary stuff done, it will be a time to vote. So I'm gonna get Mike Braxton, give away Mike and give us an invocation. Stand, you'll lead us to the pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray. Son of God, our Father, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we come this afternoon, Lord, saying thank you for all the many blessings you have restored upon us. We thank you for all you've done and what you're gonna do. Pray that you bless this meeting now, God. Pray that you give us love and peace. Bring us together and put us on one accord, God. We pray now for our mayor tonight. Lord, go within and stand by him as he leads this city. Bless every city council member tonight that represent their districts. Be with them right now. And Lord, be so careful to be on that in the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask for reading and approval of the minutes of the June 24th, 2019 meeting.
Mayor, I motion we dispense with the reading of the minutes for June 24th, 2019, but approve those minutes as written.
A motion and second, roll call vote.
Baptiste?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
All right, we have a plan and zoning introduction, number 27, Ms. Morrow.
Ordinance number 27 of 2019. This is an ordinance amending the ordinance number 64 of 2019 by changing the zoning classification of the property described as follows. To rezone the following, lot number 9, 10, 11 of Redenheimer subdivision from R1-R residential to R-1 residential special exception to operate a law office. This is at 1736 Washington Street. And whereas the planning and zoning of the city of Natchez, state of Louisiana, has recommended at their meeting of July 2nd, 2019, that the application of Charles Seaman to rezone the property described above from R-1 residential to R-1 residential special exception to operate a law office be approved. And this is just for introduction. So
Yes. Nobody here to speak on that behalf?
I think that Mr. Seaman is out of town, but, I don't think we had anything, this clear cut as far as not being controversial. Everybody out there, we talked to the neighbors, they're all good with it. He's glad to see somebody fix a house up, you know, it's a fairly old house. And I think it'll fit right in. He's got 2 acres of land, so we'll have plenty of room for however much, you know, how many parking places are gonna be required.
Where is that house?
It's almost right across from the cemetery, memory lawn going out Washington Street.
Okay.
It's where Ross Gwynn had his old nursery,
Right.
and it actually, this was his parents' house next door.
That must be about the last house in the city limits out there.
I don't know what city limits is, but it's real, it's real close.
City limits is boom right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, and it's, you know, it's already mixed use in the area, you've got, you know, trailer park and things like that, but we talked to, pretty much everybody out there, so I don't see where there should be any problem.
Do they mind Charles moving in the neighborhood?
We said it was a law office, we didn't tell them it was a law.
Yeah, I said that.
Anybody got any questions? I think it's
Okay.
pretty easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 28, Mr. Harrington.
Ordinance number 28 of 2019, an ordinance amending ordinance number 64 of 2001 by changing zoning classification of property described as follows. I'll just read it. Municipal address only, 219 of Williams Avenue. Planning Commission of the City of Natchez has recommended at their meeting on July 2nd that the application of Ted Metron to rezone the property described above from R1 residential to R1 residential special exception to operate a dental office be denied. And this is for introduction only.
We heard from 3 persons who spoke at the pre-meeting, in support of the vote of the zoning and denial of approving that. So is anybody else here for anything else? Anybody else want to speak up before we move on? This is introduced, lay over for 2 weeks, we'll vote on it in 2 weeks from tonight, on July 22nd. Ordinance with final voting, number 23, Mr. Mims.
Ordinance number 23 of 2019 is an ordinance levying an additional sales tax of 1% in Natchitoches Economic District C, State of Louisiana. The district designates the full amount of such additional sales tax as a sales tax increment in the district from which the local sales taxes increments will be determined and used to finance economic development projects in accordance with and as authorized by Part 2, Chapter 27, Title 33 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950, as amended, designating the initial annual baseline collection rate and establishing a monthly baseline collection rate for the district, pledging and dedicating such tax instruments to reimburse economic development costs and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing. May I motion to table this ordinance number 23 for further review.
Second.
Have a motion to the second, any discussion?
I have a couple questions regarding tabling it. I might address Mr. Corkin on this. In tabling the matter, if it's ever brought back up, it'll have to be renoticed.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? If it's changed in any way or form, substantially changed in any way, it'll,
Any substantial change, you gotta start all over from the
Yeah.
very beginning.
right. So it can't just slide right through, basically,
No.
is what I'm getting at. And tabling it, does it mean that it's gonna come back up at some point, or can it just,
It may die on the table, it may never come back up.
that's all the questions I had?
I have a question for Mr. Brown. The only thing that, not the only thing, but one thing that was really brought out last week was, that tax supporting Northwestern. And, I understood that support for, although I've heard clarifications on it, support for colleges and so forth are supposed to come from the state level, the legislative level. Is it or is it not, or would it be all right if the city did sponsor taxes and then give half of it?
It wouldn't be simply a donation to Northwestern. That would not be legal. It would have to be in the form of a cooperative endeavor agreement. And a cooperative endeavor agreement is such where one party says, we will do this in return for you doing this. And so some of the discussions I have been involved in the past, and I don't think there has been any finalization to what that cooperative endeavor agreement would be. But my understanding is Northwestern has a sports administration program, and so there may be opportunities for Northwestern individuals to work at the park and thus decrease the amount of cost to the city of Natchitoches as a part of their education. Those are things that come to my mind that would both benefit Northwestern and benefit the city of Natchitoches. And
That's what they used to call that at one time when they had the NAAA and all those things. I think they used to call it in-kind.
right,
Yeah, well,
right. That's
Right, well,
probably an accurate description.
Well, that's what they used to call it on the local level, so I was just trying to, get a clarification on that. So there wouldn't be any burning of the skin, close call, by the city actually, offering up,
No, I mean, it would have to be a valid cooperative endeavor agreement, and that certainly could be put together with specific understanding as to what it's going to be, and that has not been done today, so I can't give you any detail.
Okay, well,
But it's not simply a donation, here it is.
just heard it, and, the man made a good presentation of it, and, it really caught my attention, and I discussed it with a few people, and, they didn't exactly.
I personally think, even though I am a graduate of LSU, I think Northwestern is the lifeblood of this community.
Yeah.
As goes Northwestern, so goes the city of Natchitoches, and.
But the only thing that I'm
anytime-
saying is a drain. That would be, an avenue of spending that we don't have now. And if, there was anything that would impede, that not hurting the city of Natchitoches, you know, because something might come up and, you know, you gotta think down the road, it could be something that was rather important and we couldn't get it because the money is going to Northwestern for a tennis court. And, I mean, cause that's what it is. I'm just saying these things because I actually think that deal is really not gonna serve the whole of Natchitoches. I mean, it's a good idea, but as more and more I pass that, coming up and down that, going to Wendy's and whatever, unless they do something with those trees out there, that place is gonna be back off in there, and it's gonna be a little entity of its own. So, and that's the kind of stuff we're trying to avoid. We're trying to have things open where all people can, you know, scout out there if they want to. But, you know, things like that won't be told until it's actually built, so, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
But I will state that, when this came about, it was brought to my attention how some other communities were doing similar things like this to help their universities there. And I don't know if people remember this, but I think, when I look around, there's a few people in the early '80s, when Northwestern was in a very vulnerable position, they were talking about turning this campus into a prison.
Yeah, I
And,
remember that.
I think that's the last thing we would want here,
Yeah,
and
I
you're
remember that.
always, in my opinion, trying to keep that university as strong and as viable as you can. I told the story the other day, the one thing that Northwestern State University's athletics is trying to build right now, something McNeese already has, Nichols State, in the conference that we're in, is just announced they're building one. We're always trying to keep up with what they're doing to make sure that Northwestern is as viable as it possibly can. And that's one of the reasons we brought it up. It was not something that it intended. I never thought we needed the money for that, but when I was brought to my attention by somebody that was a Northwestern graduate, went to Lake Charles and worked at McNeese and is at Louisiana Tech now, said, this is kind of how we did this. They built the facility at McNeese down there, their big facility at the end of the stadium, Cowboy Stadium. That's how they built it with a lot of this money that came in. Now theirs is huge money. Theirs is like $1.2 million a year, but they got the casinos, so it's big money. But that's when the opportunity came, and I thought we were doing something that could help Northwestern very creatively. Like I told the story of a guy that was not happy with me about doing this, and he lives on the other side of the interstate, comes through every day and spends money, and he was voicing his opinion to me. I said, well, let me make sure. I didn't know he was a Northwestern graduate. I said, how much money do you think you spend? You come through there 5 days a week. He did it. I multiplied it out times 50 weeks out of the year. I said, you spend between $600 and $700 a year out there. I'm gonna round it off. If you spend $1,000 a year out there, $10 out of it goes to help Northwestern. It's the mass numbers that come through out there that are so huge, because anytime you go out there, it's a lot of people going through there. And so I thought it was a creative way of letting a lot of people help us in this community, make Northwestern even better. So that's where it came from. So I just wanted to explain it to you when you're saying that. And
Yeah, well,
I
I'm
totally-
saying that because I'm not trying to be a negative against it, because Northwestern is showing nothing but growth. I know in the last 5 years in sports and academics, and, I mean, they are noted in the sports world now. But the only thing I was trying to do from a legislative behavior, working with the college, I was just trying to address what the gentleman said about us funneling money from the city into to Northwestern. Now, you made a good point with McNeese. That McNeese has a whole lot of things going for it that Natchitoches doesn't have. Oil and gas. They have.
Well, Lake Charles is booming right now. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So the thing is, I'm saying we don't have those powers, and I'm trying to say if we did get into a crunch and look at our budget, we're going to look to see that we're sending I wouldn't say based upon what you just said about the gentleman coming through, a substantial amount of money. But if you multiply that by any constant, you would see that, it could come into a nice piece of money. But I'm accepting what he's saying, and, I was just looking at it from the legal standpoint of, helping us in Northwestern, but yet still not hurting actors.
And I think this is something I want people, I've been talking to several groups around, and I've explained it as best I can, because I said, guys, I don't even vote on this, the council needs to feel comfortable with this. So I said, if y'all don't feel comfortable with this, you need to let us know, because, you know, we could pull it, but that's something that, the Northwestern's gonna hurt on that particular business.
Well, I think what's going to be is going to be, you do remember that gentleman who said that last meeting about, the money going to Northwestern, he was kind of,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he was kind of opposed to it, but he didn't give any, specific,
I wanted to piggyback on what you said about, you kind of alluded to, you want everyone to have use of it.
right,
You know, it's
yeah.
gonna-
Well,
it's gonna
one of
be
the early, telephone call mentioned to me that they felt as though all the people who really just want to go out and throw a ball and so forth, whatever, wouldn't be, prone to go out there and do that. Secondly, they wouldn't have transportation to go out there. Now, I've heard that things are supposed to be on the planning board, but I'm not trying to make this a checkerboard game or a chessboard game. I'm trying to say that if a person did want to go and not be affiliated with Northwestern or not be affiliated with the organized tennis or baseball, would they be able to accommodate their lifestyle back there? Cause it'd probably be like the little deal that's out there now, the haunted house, the dark woods deal. I mean, you know, you got to really know where you're going to go up into something like that. So that's the reason why I'm saying, you know, you look up there, man, you can't see nothing, that's, you know, that's inviting for a lifestyle. And now I've heard you, again, that's how I really got interested in it, because of the way you were talking about, tennis and so forth, and how national organizations, because that's how ESPN supports a whole lot of stuff. And that would draw interest to Nattish. But
And there won't be tennis out there, a tennis complex we're doing in East Natchitoches and staying on that. There's gonna be a baseball fiveplex, a softball, baseball fiveplex. There'll be a soccer field, there will be baseball, softball, soccer, and flag football out there. Northwestern will use it during their intramural time. Unbeknownst to me, they're telling me they play late night games and stuff at intramurals and stuff. I didn't realize that, but that's fine, they have it after a certain time of night. Most of our stuff is over by 8 or 9 o'clock at night and stuff. And a lot of our times don't coincide. We use it in April and May. It's a huge amount of time it's gonna be out there. Tournaments will drift into June some and everything. We envision soccer tournaments going out there, but there's going to be walking trails, biking trails, there's a.
well, you see, that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. People
It's
just
the whole
wanna
community.
bike, and I even heard today that you're talking about a service road or something out there.
Do what?
That you were thinking about a service road that would be off the double.
Oh, through the gate. Well, there's a back entrance to get into it. It's gonna basically be for maintenance and stuff, and all the garbage trucks will go in that way and come out. And that's what that is. I'm sorry, I see what you're talking about. So,
Well,
Unless you're referring to DOT, kinda,
They said something similar to what the mayor was saying.
Well, that's, I want, I guess, clarification, like you mentioned the rec sports, I didn't know that it's gonna be late nights, I didn't know how much NSU was gonna have use of it. Do we even know yet, is that even, has that been worked out yet?
their intramural, head of their intramurals has talked to us about it, but we don't know their schedules as of yet, no.
Well, I think that's what you said last week, and excuse my finger. But you did say, well, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look into that. You know, you made the statement that, someone back there, and he spun off and said that, why did you vote for something and you didn't exactly then your, reaction to the performance and use, provision or clause. Those are the things that I really think that, people can always catch it in on the end of the conversation. Then they're gonna do a retro and try to get answers. And that's the reason why I thought you would table them in, to look at those issues, that some of those people, some of those things were brought up, like the giving money to Northwestern. Things like that it would just make the transition that much smoother. So people come up, he had a gentleman this afternoon come up and something like that on him, you know, but see, people want to know because they earnestly feel as though, you know, we are their mouthpieces. So that's the reason why those things that people brought up to me, I tried to squeeze it in there through your question to him, because I really thought that those are big issues in the legislature, and that is higher education. And that it has a separate budget that's able to leave out certain amounts of monies for certain reasons. And I just thought we needed to, you know.
We did go back, and that information will be coming forward shortly about a performer, like you would go to the bank and talk about what it's gonna yield and everything. We wanna go back and meet with people, and we did, that was done last week in a meeting, to look at the numbers of what were out there, because sometimes those numbers can get a little inflated. We wanted to look at some actual numbers and everything, so, that's what, we have done that, yes.
Well, I appreciate it. I think
We have, somebody from the audience, Mr. Todd.
Carolyn, let her ask.
Okay.
When you say you met with some people last week, the designers of the
No,
complex?
there were some questions talking about, putting a performer together to show what the yield on what you're bringing to town, what kind of money it's gonna generate for your community, and we want to go back and verify that. We had some preliminary numbers early on, and they met, I was out of town last week, but they met, and we will have some information about that, yes.
Is that with a consultant?
No, with
Meeting
our
tomorrow.
finance people and the people that know how to do that, and all. And I don't know we didn't have any of the people from the sports park there. This is stuff that we feel like, that knowing that the number of tournaments that come to town, there's something that the recreation, and somebody might have to help me, but it's the Louisiana Recreation Department for the state uses, knowing that when tournaments come to town, what kind of money it generates in your community. And that's where we want to verify that information.
And one other question. When you first brought this up, I was under the impression you wanted part of the money for the budget for the park. Can the city handle the operation and maintenance of the park without this tax?
No, none of the money, it's for the budget, now, while we've asked for this money we're trying to get, and I don't know any other way to explain it, is for the O&M costs that we use. When I went out and visited with the hotel owners and everything, and all, when we first started this, because it brought to our attention, the number one thing that brings more people to stake heads and beds here was the tournament ball, that the USSSA ball, the USSSA. Then it was Northwestern and the events they host. So what we were asking for help was for the O&M cost that's why we're asking for this.
Okay, since you're not gonna collect the tax, how are you gonna pay for the O&M?
Who said we're not gonna collect the tax?
Well, you're not withdrawing it completely?
We're tabling it,
You tabling it?
yes.
Okay, well,
There might be some adjustments made as we get more information. I think the use tax, fooled a lot of people. I got to go on record of thanking Mr. Sam Nelson for even bringing it up. I am talking to 3 people that even knew what the use tax was at this point and how it worked. It's something that the legislature passed years ago to simplify, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Tommy had talked to the bond attorney, that they have to put it in there because it's the only way they can collect the money without making a nightmare for your tax people. Is that kind of the way I was understood? So you have to have a sale and use tax together on it, and the use tax is for the materials that they would buy and purchase and everything. So
do you plan to bring it back as just a sales tax?
we don't know right now. We're
No,
tabling it.
you can't do that. When the legislature authorized my appreciation is, and I'm not a tax lawyer, but when the legislature authorized the TIF districts and the taxing, they authorized a sales and use tax, and you can't pick and choose, is my understanding.
Mike, they're going back and asking the question, and I'm sorry, is if this doesn't pass, do we have the money to do the O&M costs?
Yes.
Somehow or another, we're gonna have to make it work, I'll tell you that.
That was exactly what I was asking,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you, okay. Thank you.
All right, Pat, and then I have no, okay,
Got my answer, I'm good.
okay. Is anybody else got anything before we vote?
I have a couple comments. The only issue I have with NSU is, NSU doesn't just, with the businesses out of the interstate, they're not the sole businesses that benefit from NSU. It's every business in town. So I have an issue making businesses out on the interstate pay a tax to basically make a type of donation to NSU without other businesses in town doing the same. That's an issue I have, that we need to discuss while this is on the table.
And that's another reason for tabling it. Yeah, this council may decide they don't want to have Northwestern in that way. I'm not saying you don't wanna help Northwestern. The council may decide you don't wanna help them in that way.
And I don't know exactly where the funds are going to Northwestern. If it's just going to athletics, or is it going to education as well?
They were trying to mention intramural sports.
No, right, let me back up. The number one thing that was talked about with Northwestern was the sports activities that help bring people, like at homecoming. The hotel industry said it almost fills up the hotels when they have homecoming. Certain, football teams that are our rivals bring a lot of people to town. We just got through, they had to spend $250,000 to $300,000 is what my understanding was, to fix up the track complex to host the track meet that we just had here last month. There's always gonna be money, whether it's, it is tied to the sporting good activities, the sports activities that bring people to town by having their tournaments and stuff and whatever. The baseball teams, there's people, they got certain rivals, they play a 3-game, series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Some of those parents follow their kids in here and stay and whatever. Basketball is usually come and go, it's not as much, but football, baseball, softball, those people come in and stay, and then if we get a chance to host these SLC, the Southland Conference, meets, that's money that comes to town.
What is this, conversation that I've heard from a few, individuals about this 2-cent sales tax? If this wasn't done, you could split.
I was about to bring that up.
Yeah.
So there's already a 2% tip tax out
TIF
there.
tax,
And
and
it's-
that would be more in
Hotel.
line with somebody saying last week about everybody, including these restaurants up here. Cause I'm telling you, man, they have a lot of traffic up and down Front Street and Second Street. I mean, people, they go down there and just like Bourbon Street, you go down there and stomp your foot and turn around and come back. That's how people spend it nowadays. All those businesses, I don't think it's probably a business on those 2 streets here that can say that they're not creating, even when we were down there ducking in the water and stuff, people around they're just looking for something to do and they're going for the wallet to do it. So things I'm saying, if we already got something, well, the bounty for these people, well, then the bounty for those people out there would be kind of an equal, and so it wouldn't be French market and so forth, just thinking that everything's going against them or their type of business. And, God in heaven knows we don't need to lose any more people stopping in, out there on the, interstate by, having a rumor getting around that we are, taking advantage of people who do stop out there. I think that the lady tried to say that, people could stop in, Chopin and all those kind of places. No, because that's a pretty large little gas station out there. It all depends on what you're driving. And, so.
I'm not as much worried about people not spending money out there. Let's be honest, it doesn't hurt individuals individuals' pocketbooks that much. You're going in, you're talking about spending an extra 25 cents or
Right.
10 cents or $1.
Well, she was an
In the big
honest.
scheme of things, but it all comes down, my ultimate question is it even needed at all? Why, if we already have the 2% tax, can we not take 0.5% of that and allocate to the park? Yeah, it'd be great to have more money, but why have it just to have it if it's not needed?
Well, that's
In-
another
in-
point.
Let me ask you two questions, because when I told you this last time, when I came in as mayor in 2012, that particular fund was in the negative. We have spent some money, and we do have some money in there right now. There's 3 different projects. One, we need to go ahead and do pretty quickly. There's a couple others that if they came to fruition, we would be back in the negative in that particular balance. That is not enough money that we're generating. It's taken us, I'm going on my 7th year, or my 8th year now, my 7th year, I'm sorry. And it's just now gotten to where we've got that in a positive balance. That is not enough money to do what we need to do out there to do the infrastructure upgrades, because we've got to go out there and do some more concrete work on that. I don't think that's gonna be a huge amount, but the next one, if it comes to fruition, could be a big amount of money and stuff, and it would deplete that. And then you wouldn't have any money to do that. And I'm just telling y'all, there's not enough money. It's taken us 7 years to get that back to where it was, and we got a positive balance. And I hope we wanna keep some of that money to help the industries that are already out there, the businesses, to keep that infrastructure going. And as I told them, I promise, none of that money that's being generated out there, we go back in to help anything in their competition in town, and we've stayed true with that.
Well, I'm gonna back out of this as briefly as I can, but I think that, these are the things that, what's that little thing you have in the kitchen that spins around with the,
Lazy Susan,
the what?
a lazy Susan.
Yeah, we need to have a lazy Susan. That's why I thought we were having the tabling.
We're getting ready to eat.
Those individuals who have their little secret knowledges, and I think that meeting last week really showed a lot of intelligence from our audience, because they had questions that were bearing directly on legal matters. So whatever we do to improve for the final vote, we need to bring those things out like we're doing now. Because people can, through the newspaper or whatever means, can say, oh, well, all right, then I can see that. Like his answer was good, and yours too with McNeese.
I tell you like that.
No, I didn't say that. You know, my daughter's a graduate of McNeese, and I liked you talking about Thibodeau with Down Johnson, used to be a football player here. So it was good to reflect on that kind of stuff. So it's good to know, and you being a sportsman yourself, that you had that kind of insight. So my thing on that, starting this whole deal was to bring in the legalities of the role of the legislature and funding colleges.
I have a question on the use tax, maybe you can answer. If a new business moves out there and wants to build whatever it may be, some type of industry of any kind, they're gonna have to pay that use tax on whatever their cost is in their building, is that correct, in their construction?
On the materials.
No, that's not, there is no sales tax or use tax, on labor. And so, if you built a $1 million facility and 600,000 of that was labor, you wouldn't be paying the tax on that. A use tax is.
But you would on 400,000?
Yeah.
What?
But you would on the 400,000?
Yeah, you would on the 400. Well, not necessarily on the 400,000, because it would depend on whether the vendor you bought material from charged the sales tax. If the vendor didn't charge the sales tax to you, then you would owe the use tax. Does that make sense?
So you get audited by the sales tax commission and you pay it, because that's the way.
That's correct. That's correct.
Gotcha.
That's my worry, is to hinder any economic development out there.
And that's one of the concerns we have, and we're working on something address that. That's, I would never do anything to hurt economic development for more growth to go out there. We've got to figure out how to address that, and we think we might can do that.
That whole area is nothing but the future, you know, 'cause I don't know who
Like
owns
that,
it.
I apologize, but you got, if you're speaking from the audience, you have to step up here and state your name, and it's being recorded, so you got to step up here and state your name, because this is all being recorded live at this particular time.
Okay, Betty Maroney, 113 Cappy Drive. Was it the motion to table this? So I don't understand, are we, and then Eddie brought up the fact that, or someone asked, are we tabling this because we're gonna rework it? Are we tabling because it may never come back up? You know, what's the deal? Because it seems like there's a lot of discussion going on that has very little to do with the motion at hand to table it. And
It's
are
part
you
of why
afraid
we're
that
here
if we
to table it.
voted, but I mean, if we voted for it tonight, is it because it might fail if it was voted on tonight? Or is it because it might pass if it was voted on tonight? I mean, the process
Well,
of,
I think we went out on record stating it was gonna be tabled, so I think there's no way we could vote on it tonight.
I totally agree. I just don't understand what the conversation, it seems like you do need to rework it as opposed to just, we're gonna table it and bring it back up the next time, and it may or may not have a lazy Susan, I'm not sure. You know, but, it's
The
just kind of
purpose for
confusing.
tabling it would be to answer some of these questions that have been raised by.
Right, I think
there's
We don't have enough answers to vote on.
Right.
Right, okay.
And we're trying, I mean, I would like to see, and I'm sure the mayor was, because he made the statement last week, last meeting, that, so many people had such very interest, and he himself said that he would look at that,
Okay, well,
you know, and he mentioned tabling it.
if we're still tabling it or
At the
discussing
time,
the tabling of it,
Like I said, nobody really knew what the use tax was, and
Right.
that's what threw a peak in it.
Right.
And it wasn't fair, because we never talked about going after anything besides just the 1% on sales out there. So we had to answer these questions, and that's why we're tabling.
well, other things about the discussion, I was at Northwestern for 22 years, and if someone came onto the Northwestern property that it was not a quote Northwestern function, they had to buy insurance, show that they had insurance, and so on. You couldn't have an event on campus without showing proof of insurance. So are we gonna open up the city sports complex to Northwestern to use without them having insurance to cover it? Because otherwise the city would be liable for that.
That's all,
taken care of in
all this
cooperative
stuff.
endeavor agreement.
Okay, just check.
So that comes up.
You do have to come up here, Elaine, I remember. I'm sorry.
I've just got a quick question. I appreciate the time,
We just need
Mr.
your
Mayor,
name,
and
that's all, so.
I'm Elaine Sparks, and I'm with Sharp Co Hotel Management. And my question is, you mentioned it yourself, Mr. Baptiste, is that, the other area on this side of the interstate is also getting income, revenue, whatever you'd like to call it, during all of these tournaments and all of these special occasions and things, as well as us on the interstate side. And I'm kinda like the lady was a couple weeks ago, why can't we all be taxed? If it's gotta happen, why can't it be all taxed? Because everybody's getting to benefit from it. And that's just, you know, I'd like to know what all the other of you, city council people have to say about it.
I'll mention something on that. You know, the way we looked at this thing initially, when this whole thing came about, was to try to find a way to bring about this park. And the city can afford to pay for it even if this tax doesn't pass. I mean, it's not gonna go away just because the tax doesn't pass. This is an issue that we're addressing. The whole idea behind this thing was to build this park, make a great asset for the city and the people in the city without costing the people of the city an arm and a leg. So the idea that the interstate access out there is a hub of immense traffic, whether you're traveling, whether you're coming to the ball game, whether you're coming to Western, you buy, you sell, you move on. It's a very limited amount of money spent by the people, but the impact is great for the city. If we put all these people downtown, the tax, then everybody that shops downtown from Natchitoches, all the restaurant people, all the people downtown, the city people that we were trying to avoid are paying the tax. So that's the focus, because that has the concentration, I guess you might say, of the people coming into the community, all the people that'll be using the park, the Northwestern people, the Sports Hall of Fame people, the fireworks people, the festival people, parades, will all focus on that gas, the food, the intersection, the motels right there. And that was to avoid having the people of Natchitoches pay for this, all of this.
But we are the people of Natchitoches.
Well, we are, but the idea was to not impact the people of Natchitoches as much as we have.
We're like
because we asked them to
stepchildren
pay
out
for it.
there.
What,
We're
ma'am?
kinda like stepchildren out there.
No, you're an asset. You're the
Quite the
star.
opposite.
You're the star.
Quite the
I
opposite.
mean, you know, we do our business and we try to keep it flowing, and we advertise for everybody down here.
You do great.
You know,
Love
we
it.
advertise for the group homes, we advertise for all the restaurants. We even send them to sister hotels. We're going back and forth, you know, sending people around. And, you know, it just feels like it's one-sided. And
Well,
that's,
I may, since you said, I had mentioned something, but coming in on the interstate from Alexandria, or coming in here, I cannot remember a time that you can see, and it really gives you a sense of pride, you know, when you see the little food thing, you know, go this way, you go that way for Subway, and you go this way for that, because it makes you know that you are getting out of the loneliness of that drive into a semblance of civilization. And then they got that sign up there, 1714, and that Charté Hotel up there. It's a lot of good,
a lot of it.
yeah, that comes through, coming through that area. So my point is that if both groups paid the tax, or they, because he says kind of on shaky ground now, that TIF tax, if they use that 2%, I don't know. And Barley, I humbly apologize to this group for coming in speaking of something off the cuff, but these are things that are in the air, and I haven't done an extensive study, but I'm kind of like these ordinances things. I just go through the topic, and I think you made a very good point. And you don't want to be a stepchild, and then you would be on an even par with whatever happens in this community. You know.
I think it's just a divided issue.
Right. Well,
And that's just my opinion. I didn't get that from Jay.
Right.
I didn't get that from anybody. That's
Miss-
just what
Miss
I'm
Elaine?
thinking. Yes, sir.
I wanna make sure you understood what I think Mr. Mims was telling you. And when I say this, Mr. Mims may say, that's not what I was saying at all. But I think what he was saying is the thought process, right or wrong, was that the vast majority of this tax, if it were passed, would be paid by transient people and not Natchitoches people. I mean, the vast majority, I think, of people at your hotel are not Natchitoches Parish residents. Now, I just don't think that's where people are gonna go spend the weekend if they live in Natchitoches unless there's some kind of emergency that they need to. And I've had other people say to me, well, yeah, when that word gets out, people are gonna quit stopping in Natchitoches. And, you know, I don't think I have ever in my lifetime, when I was getting ready to go on vacation, called wherever I was going to see what the tax rate was and made my decision based on that. I've been following my grandson who plays travel ball for 4 years, and wherever it is, that's where we go. And we don't call ahead of time to see what the sales tax is.
So if they came to town, they shouldn't have to worry about that. And that's the way we look at it, is if it's all on one table and everybody's paying the same thing, it should be inviting to come to this town, whether
And
they
the
call
concern
and check
was,
or not.
if you put it all over the city of Natchitoches, then people who live in the city of Natchitoches, who shop in the city of Natchitoches, and we're always trying to get people not to go out of town, then they're gonna be paying an added tax, and the idea was to try to get the tax paid by other people who don't live in Natchitoches.
I understand what you're saying.
I get the point, I don't think that works here, because everyone who visits Natchitoches, any tourists who visits Natchitoches are gonna spend just as much money down Front Street or the Church Street Inn The same could be said for the hotels down here. They're not, residents are staying at those hotels. So it's just, to me, it's not as much about, I have no idea, I don't work in the hotel business. I don't think they're gonna lose business because of the 1% tax. No one will even probably notice it.
You know.
Them, of course, but it's the optics of it and the fairness of it, I think. And I just personally have an issue with it.
Tell them
I
about
want
Jet.
to back up to something that Ms. Park said, that, you know, we spend an awful lot of money in this community, especially during our holiday season. It puts people out in y'all's hotels out there. Every event we have down here, we're backing and sponsoring and doing whatever we can to make it successful. Jazz festival, car show, whatever it does. And I think when you say you feel like a stepchild out there, I'm not understanding that statement. Because we're doing everything we can to bring people to town to spend money, especially out there. I've heard the comments how we've robbed from the parish government about taking their money that should have gone to them. We're the ones that had the infrastructure. We spent over $2 million. When I came on the city council in 1988, some people thought we were crazy for going out there. The police here at the time didn't have the money to do that. They came to us to put water, sewer, electrical out there, and we did it. And this is the return on our investment we're getting. It was a great investment. We're still making money. I hope there's 2 or 3 more businesses to go out there in the near future, but I don't understand your statement. You feel like a stepchild out there.
The only
I've done
reason-
pretty much anything y'all ever asked me out there to do when it came to infrastructure needs and stuff. We opened up when you used to be across the street to the Hampton Inn. From coming, we spent some of that TIF money out there to open that up, all the way over on that service road.
I agree.
And I'm willing to listen about anything about that makes it better out there for y'all. Because if y'all you win, we win.
Yeah, well, the reason I said stepchild is because some of them are getting taxed, some of them are not. That's the only reason. Because you have done stuff for us out there, across the road when I was with the other, Hampton brand. But the point that, just for instance, Jetty Construction, they're staying with us right now. In order to get that business, we had to drop it down. What was it, Jay? $58.99.
1%. It was a $1 bid.
A $1.
And again, it's not a 1-room night. It's 500 room nights, which then adds to thousands of dollars. I had a football team today in another market. They were asking about the tax because that's the difference in them staying if they're tax exempt or not. So 1% matters when you're talking about a $50,000 account. So it's not that one person, and then to say it's just people coming out of town, that's the speed trap Rogaline argument. It's people driving through Rogaline, it's a speed trap. That's the way you're looking at these company guys that stay with us that are coming in and working at
These are
Alliance
long-term
Compressor, that
people.
are working at IP, that are working at Walmart. If you belittle them, that's a majority of business in the hotels in this town are the work guys. So yeah, they are from out of town, but they're the ones that are building this economy here. And if we, again, it goes back to the big picture. If we start telling big business and any business, this is the way we do it here, they're not gonna come. And this is the way we treat them. So, we should be royally kissing their butts, not saying you're just passing through when we want your 1% or whatever. So that's it.
And that just goes to say what I'm trying to bring to the table is that, you know, we have our own expenses. There's expenses that probably some of you don't even realize what we have on a, you know, month to month deal. And when you're looking at an additional tax after what we already pay, that's a lot of money when you start putting it all together. And we just want to be treated fairly. And I'm not saying that you haven't done it in the past, Mayor, because you have. And I know for a fact that you're behind, you know, the majority of the things that go on. I believe that. But we just don't feel like that this is a fair tax. And that's what I wanted to say. Does any of the rest of you want to mention how y'all feel about it? I mean,
That's what the last time.
okay, all right. What about
I'd just like to comment that the ballpark has the potential economically for all of us to benefit from.
I agree.
And I'm disappointed that in good faith in the beginning, somewhere along the way, the train ran off the track, so to speak. I do think there are several concerns and questions, valid questions that have been asked. I feel like we need to regroup over the sales and use and look at it and get some definition on that. There are operating cost numbers that I would like to see, the projections of what the park does. What is it projected to bring in? And then to recalculate, how does that affect taxes, that kind of thing, and what's our take? So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and with the July 4th holiday falling in this, I know the mayor was on a family vacation, and I just think it's time to table it, take a deep breath. Let's look back, we're all family, and somehow we'll make this work out, and it's gotta work for everybody.
Well, thank y'all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to.
All right, you gotta step up. I'm
I'll
sorry.
speak really fast. Mary White, 707 Parkway Drive, and I'm here to talk on behalf of travel ball parents. It doesn't make any difference how much you charge. We're gonna stay in those motels when we're playing 5 games a day. And if we had won, we'd have been there for 3 nights instead of 2 nights, and we had 2 motel rooms. We ate all our meals in all those restaurants, whatever they had to give us, it didn't matter, we had to eat it, and we'd have paid the tax on it. So I'm just saying in favor of the tax, and the people that have to come there to participate in the sports complex, they don't care how much they're paid.
Anybody else for Rich Miller? Have a roll call vote to table it, just be a yes vote would be to table it.
Baptiste?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
Okay, that stands tabled, and we will obviously keep the public informed. I don't know if it's coming back up in 2 weeks or 2 months, I don't know what the decision is, so. Let's see, number 25, Mr. Nelson for finance.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 25 of 2019, an ordinance to amend and readopt section 22-36 of the Code of Ordinances, which said section is within Article 3 entitled Cane River Lake of Chapter 22 entitled Parks and Recreation, said section being amended and readopted to amend regulations governing watercraft operation during fireworks displays, providing for advertising, further providing for severability, and further providing for a repealer and effective date of ordinance. And I move that we adopt ordinance number 25 of 2019.
A motion to second, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Baptiste?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Harrington?
Yes.
Morrow?
Yes.
The next scheduled city council meeting will be July 22nd, 2019, and any order or business will be brought before this body. I hear a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
That's where it says stop. Did you get it?